Hey everyone, it's Lauren and today I am doing the 21 Pilots book tag. Now this tag was originally created by Momo from over at the BookTube Girl. I was tagged by Kat from Cat You Not Books. So I'm super excited about this tag. I actually haven't listened to 21 Pilots in a little while, but I've been listening to them for quite a while at the same time, if that makes sense. I was first introduced to 21 Pilots by some of my friends from college. The college I went to did this thing that they called brother sister halls. So like a hall from one of the girls' dorms would be paired together with one of the halls from the guys' dorms to help get students to know each other. They called it brosis. So some of the guys in my brosis were absolutely obsessed with 21 Pilots and they just really grew on me. So I've been listening to 21 Pilots for years now, so I'm super excited to do this tag. So let's get started. What is a popular book that you've wanted to read for a long time that everyone's been talking about? So I don't know if absolutely everybody's been talking about this book, but I've definitely heard about it from a couple different people and seen it about on BookTube, and then I keep on seeing it in bookstores and wanting to get it, but just not getting it quite yet. And that is Illuminae by Amie Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Illuminae just looks like a really fascinating book since it's told through atypical means. There's text messages and memos and redacted documents, and it just looks like it's really different, and that intrigues me. So I'm super excited to eventually, hopefully, get around to reading Illuminae. Name a book that contained issues you felt connected to on a personal level. So for that, I am going with the Harry Potter series, and within this series I related to a lot of the characters at different points, but for this we're going to go with good old Hermione Granger. Hermione's eagerness to learn is something that I've always related to. I've been reading ever since I was young, and I've absolutely loved learning and just soaking in as much information as possible. I was the kid that read like all sorts of nonfiction books, and I'm the person who will like look up one thing on Wikipedia or somewhere online and like 3 hours later be reading about like some of like the most obscure things ever, but it's fun. I learned a lot of things that way, a lot of really random things that I'll probably never use, but that's cool. Name a book that you never wanted to end. So this is the sequel, so it's not ending quite yet, but when I read An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, I just did not want that book to end. I loved the characters. I didn't love everything that was happening in that book, but I loved the storyline and I loved where it was going, and I couldn't stop reading it, but then I didn't want it to stop. So I'm super excited that A Torch Against the Night is now out, so I can continue on in this world and with Elias and Leia, and just keep learning and just keep living in this series. What is a book or series that you have loved since your childhood? So I've definitely talked about this before, but The Chronicles of Narnia, y'all. The Chronicles of Narnia is one of the series that I remember reading earliest from my childhood, and The Horse and His Boy was actually one of my favorite books from the series. It was the only one that I read for a while because when I started reading these I was young enough that most of the other books scared me. For some reason The Horse and His Boy didn't. I also really loved Aravis, and that she was just this strong female character, and I basically wanted to be Aravis when I grew up. So Horse and His Boy, definitely my first favorite book from the series. Name a book that made you feel all the emotions. So I am no stranger to feeling all the feels from books, but if we're going for all of the emotions, and I mean all of the emotions, there's no choice other than Mockingjay. This was the book that I had to stop reading partway through and put down and go for a walk around my house, because if I didn't, it was probably going to get chucked against the room because of some of the things that Suzanne Collins did to her poor characters. But I also, like, as frustrated as I got with this book, I also loved other parts of it, and all the feels, man, all the feels. What is your personal favorite underground book or series? Now, this isn't really an underground book or series, but it's something that I learned about just recently after one of my friends recommended it to me. I hadn't heard about it before that really, and that is the Wondla series by Tony DiTerlizzi. It's a kid series and I was enthralled by it. I mean, he also illustrated this book, and I mean, look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? So I blew through this series. There's 3 books. I mean, the other 2 are here on my shelf right now. I breezed through this series. I just could not stop reading. I wanted to know what happened. I was engaged. Highly recommend. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Not just the first book, the entire series. I finally have Empire of Storms. No, I haven't started reading it yet. I'm super excited to, but just what Sarah has done with this series, the way she's planted things from the beginning, and then as you read, you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And just what she puts her characters through, but it all makes sense in the end, and the twists. I have run out of words, so we're just going to leave it at this series, y'all. Okay, number 8 is Goner. What is a book character that you just fell in love with from the beginning? So there's, I can fall in love with characters kind of easily, especially, so it was really hard choosing this one. I almost went with Scorpius Malfoy from Cursed Child because Scorpius is a cinnamon roll and I just adore him. But then I remembered Apollo exists from Apollo from Rick Riordan series, The Trials of Apollo. When I read The Search for the Hidden Oracle this summer, within a couple pages, well, it was an audiobook, so within a couple minutes, I knew that Apollo was going to be one of my new favorite characters. He's just so sarcastic, and all of his humor that you've seen in pieces throughout the other books, from his interactions as a god with Percy and with the other demigods, just magnifies in this book because you're inside Apollo's head. And I just think he is one of the most hilarious characters that I've read in a while, and I love his wit and his humor and his responses to things. So I am super excited to see where Rick continues taking Apollo with the rest of the series. What is one book that gave you a headache to read? Now, this book, I'm actually choosing a series. It didn't give me a headache to read because of the book. I wasn't frustrated with it or anything. It just gave me a headache to read because I read the entire series in one day and stayed up until 2 a.m. and that's not a good recipe for me. So I am going with the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I was home visiting my parents over Labor Day weekend, and my sister gave me the series. She loaned it to me. She's like, I think you'd like it. And I was like, not sure. I read the first book over the morning, and then I was flying back home that night, and then I read the second book in the airport, and I started the third book midway through like my hour-long flight, and then I had to like drive back to my house. So I had to stop reading it, but then I got back and I finished up the third book, and it was 2 a.m. and it was wonderful because I got to finish up the book, but it was terrible because I stayed up until 2 a.m. and I had to like function as a human being the next day also. So Selection series, really good kind of headache. What is one book you love that most people seem to hate? Now I'm going to flip this around. What is one book you hate that most people seem to love? And this isn't even a book that I hate per se. I just wasn't a huge fan of it, and I didn't think it lived up to the hype that I heard about it. And like, I know a lot of people really, really love this book and really, really love this series. But I'm going with City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I started reading this because my very dear friend told me that I had to read it, mostly because I had to read this series so then I could read other books that Cassandra Clare has read, and I just haven't really been able to get into these books. I don't really know why. I mean, some of the characters really kind of annoy me, and I don't really like love any of the characters, so that's probably contributing to it. But I'm not entirely sure. I didn't hate the book. I didn't love the book. I didn't even really like the book. I'm not sure where this falls on my maybe I'll reread it eventually, or maybe I won't reread it eventually kind of level. So we'll see. I've gotten halfway through the series. I've read the first 3 books. I think I have 2 more left, so I'm gonna keep going through the series. I'm just not thrilled. That was the 21 Pilots book tag. I'm so excited to have done this. I'm probably gonna end up going and listening to some 21 Pilots music later on today, because it's been a while. Definitely been a while. So I am going to tag Stephen Alf from Alf Books, Sam from Green Eggs and Sam, and anybody else who wants to do this tag. If you've seen this and you think it looks like a cool tag, go for it. If you haven't listened to 21 Pilots music, go on, give them a listen, check them out, see what all the hype is about. If you like this video, don't forget to like it. Put any comments down below. Let me know what your favorite 21 Pilots song is if you've listened to them. If not, give them a listen, come on back, let me know what you think of them. So until next time.